See?
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I just thought he was like an actor that came out of nowhere. Like,
no, God, no. There's Mark Wahlberg, and then his brother, who's even worse actor than he is, which is Donnie Wahlberg. Donnie Wahlberg. Yeah, and he was on the New Kids on the Block.
I know,
so,
yeah.
See, this whole thing is coming together, and there you go, my friend. Parachute pants, gangsta jamming, and that is Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. See, I told you, this is stuff that you just can't make up. Yes. But it was such a horrible thing. Matter of fact, when the Sega CD came out, they had videos or video games that you could buy that were of CNC Music Factory, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, and Prince. That's who the other person was. And I was trying to think of. It was like Prince at that time. Kind of was. Well, no, Prince is actually good. So
yeah,
never mind. But Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, CNC Music Factory had these CDs that you could buy for the Sega CD, and you could remix your own CNC Music Factory or Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch videos.
That's crazy.
Into such a way that you're supposed to be the director of these videos, which they were just a bunch of video clips you could just layer on top of each other.
Yeah.
Very horrible application for the system. It was just it just shouldn't exist. But yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look away.
Yeah, just look away from it.
I'm gonna close that down. It's like a train wreck, you know.
It is. It is, especially if you start going back and reading the history of CNC Music Factory and Marky Mark and all of them. Oh my God. It's like they got sued by so many people because the music that they were using was like, actually this other chick was singing, but she was too fat. So they got another girl to replace her in the video, and who was incredibly hot, but she was lip singing to the fat lady's singing. And so she was like, what in the hell is going on? If you guys wanted to, I'd say yes, but you guys just totally did it. And they're like, well, we just feel that we're trying to portray this. She's like, whatever, give me money. They're like, no. They're like, okay, see you in court, jackasses. And that's what happened with that. Anyway, it was just good. It was just watching that history. As a matter of fact, living through that, because in the U.S. that was a big to-do. Matter of fact, it was the exact same time where Vanilla Ice started getting in trouble.
Ice Baby.
His stuff. Yeah, Ice Baby. So he's getting in trouble for his stuff, which he totally still denies to this day. He's like, no, it's completely different. You know.
Well, now these days you just call it sampling and it's fine.
No, see, yeah, well, now you can't. It's, I'm just sampling. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But then, and it's funny, to this day, Vanilla Ice is the only artist that's got in trouble for doing something like that.
Really?
MC Hammer's done it. MC Hammer did it all the time. And everyone's like, he's okay. But when Vanilla Ice did it, like, what the hell, man? You know, don't use my music in your crappy music. And he's the only one that's gotten sued and gotten in trouble for it. And it was just...
See, it's beyond me that... no, sorry, my brain is just not working right now. Like that last Marky Mark thing has just really done me in.
Did you like him just gyrating in his underwear like that? Did you get up there in baggy pants?
I can't. But especially after The Happening, like I'm just imagining him doing. Tell you what he should do is do a musical version of The Happening like that. No, would be brilliant.
That's the problem. That's the reason Mark Wahlberg movies don't do so well. Is because the people that grew up in the 80s, they know who he is.
Yeah, that's true.
And so if you go and you were like watching like Max Payne or something, you're like, Max Payne.
That movie was bad in itself.
Well, okay, the movie was bad in itself, but you're like, that's totally Marky Mark up there trying to be serious. What's going on? Come on, man, get some good vibrations going. Don't shoot the gun. Start dancing right now. You know?
Halfway through a fight scene, he just rips them off. Parachute pants are everywhere.
Dancing, there he goes.
Getting down.
And it's just, you just cannot watch Marky Mark do that crap. I mean, even for the day back in the 80s and 90s, it was still terrible music.
And that's saying something. Bad for the 80s is
bad music in the 80s was terrible music in just forever. You know, there are timeless classics that's happened, and you know there has been, like for instance when Bach was big. You know, Bach's creating these giant concertos and writing music and sonnets and everything.
That was a lot earlier than the 80s, though.
Oh well, yeah. But I'm saying it's like when he was writing this stuff, it's like, oh my God, Bach is timeless. To this day, everybody can recognize Bach. But around that time, they had to have their version of Marky Mark. They had to have somebody out there. It's like
some dude with a violin, just kind of like, whoa, check this out.
let's take two pianos, glue them together, and then start throwing ping pong balls between the keys, man. And it's just like, okay. They had to have their idiotic people.
Yeah, true.
So I like to think, like, well, 600 years from now, what is going to be our defining music? What are they going to be listening to? Like, oh, yes, this classical music is just delightful. As you can see, Marky Mark had good vibrations, and that's what he was trying to portray in this lovely suite, as I'm saying here. They could not afford clothing, as you can see, as he is in his underwears.
And you see this right here? Yes, well, he was getting jiggy with it.
And he liked Miami.
Yes, he did. He liked it rather a lot.
But that's what I'm saying, though. It's like 600 years from now, what are they going to be looking as our defining music?
Yeah, that's a good point.
There isn't one.
No, there isn't. Because
even now the 70s has some, they got Zeppelin. They've got, just amazing music that came out of that drug-fueled craze. It was just great. Our drug-fueled craze that was in the 80s, it was just like nothing. It was like banging a cat on a washboard, It just, it's like, why? Why did we invent the synthesizer? It just makes no sense. This is horrible. But
that's the same with when we say 90s, now we're in the noughts, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't any real big bands that actually are defining, because there's so many rip-offs, there's so many bands which have been created by record industries, record companies and stuff like that, and they're just spawning everywhere.
And you're absolutely right. Matter of fact, it's like when a band starts realizing that other bands sound like it and they try to change, they get blasted by the critics and their fans. Like, what the hell are you doing, man? And I just think that's hilarious. It's just like, no, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Screw that.
Everyone's trying to look for that edge and that shock value. It's like, hey, let's do something different. It's like, you really can't do anything to shock people anymore.
The only thing that you could do to shock somebody is if you went on stage and literally started stabbing the Pope or something. That would shock some people. It's like, wow, how do you get the Pope on stage? That's amazing.
It's like, shit, that was our opening show as well. Now we got to do this for the next week. Somebody revive him.
It's like, well, have they got a new Pope yet? They're like, no. What are we going to do? Can we do it with a cow? Only if you're in India. It's like, So, I mean, it's just, there is nothing that can shock people anymore. It's like, even, like, for instance, Pink Floyd was a very defining band. Not in because of its music. Their music was great, don't get me wrong.
It was a scene and company, wasn't it?
What, Pink Floyd? No, I was just saying that they're defined as just an awesome band because one thing, they had this show that was in England, and they didn't want to play. They didn't want to play at all. And so the technical artist that they had at the time, that was just doing switchboards and stuff, they're like, guys, you got to go on stage, get out there, start playing. They're like, we don't want to because we're just playing music, and they can listen to this music on records. And so they would sit there and have this powwow. And so Floyd told this technical artist what they wanted to do. They wanted to make what they kept calling in their haze. I'll just call it this: the haze. They wanted a 3D sound that you can see and feel. And so the technical artist is like, you guys are putting a lot of crap on me right now. I'm not going to be able to pull that off. They're like,
5 minutes before.
Yeah, exactly. He's like,
you could have told me.
Yeah, he's like, how the hell am I going to make sound you can touch and taste and feel and rub it on your body? And it just makes no sense. And it comes back.
All right, we can bottle that.
He's like a bottle of chocolate syrup. Here you go. But so what he ended up doing was they wanted 3D sound, and so he had set up his mixing board with a joystick from an arcade machine, so that they could control which speaker that it was going out of. And so while they were playing the beginning of one of their songs, there's supposed to be footsteps, like a big marching footsteps thing.
Yeah.
Now you have a crowd of thousands of completely stoned out of their mind people, and all of a sudden you hear marching. And not only do you hear marching behind you. So the entire audience just turns around to see who the man was coming in to try and shut down their concert. But as soon as they turned, the artist made the marching go around the left side of the arena.
That's really cool.
So from the stage perspective, Floyd loved it because they were literally controlling these people with a joystick.
That's really cool.
And so, yeah, it was an amazing story. See, this is why you need to watch Behind the Music. That's what I'm telling you, man.
I watched Behind the Music once, but that was on Vanilla Ice, funnily enough.
Well, see, there you go. But it was an amazing, amazing feat that they had done. Now, that is something that will be remembered in music history because nobody else had done that. Zeppelin. They did pretty much the same thing, except they had more drugs, so that was a little bit better. and it just goes through. But as soon as 1980 hit, what happened? We invented the synthesizer, and music just went straight into the shit can. It was just like, you know, boom, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop. It was just like, oh god. But then we had the Axl Rose theme song for Beverly Hills Cop, so that just leveled everything.
There was a band that had more drugs than Pink Floyd.
Zeppelin had more drugs.
know.
No, see, okay, now Jeff is throwing